So, welcome to another episode of Reserve Health's Growth Podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, Biondi, oldest daughter, student, senior, soon to graduate from NC State. I'm representing with my Wolfpack coffee mug. And so, of course, I'll take any chance I can get to talk to you and see you, but I appreciate you jumping on this call with me to put together a podcast for the staff.
Yes, I'm happy to be here.
I know that you've met some of the staff before because you've spent a summer working with us. But today, what we were going to talk about is actually what you did this past summer at a different internship. Maybe introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you're doing in school, what your goals are after school, and maybe a little introduction to the internship you did this past summer.
Well, yeah, I'm a senior at NC State. Like you said, I'm a psychology major, and then I have minors in health, sports science, and health medicine and human values. So I've really tried to focus on the health side of that. I've had a few different internships pertaining to occupational therapy because that's the career I want to pursue, specifically pediatrics. So I've done that in a clinical setting. I did that also at a summer camp this summer at Queen's University. So that's just given me an opportunity to work with kids with special needs or developmental delays, just seeing how the professionals work with them, what qualities and characteristics I need to adopt if I want to be a therapist one day. And so it's just been a really rewarding experience. And then I think that going forward, I'm starting to apply to OT schools myself. I have one interview coming up this week at Wingate, and then I'm still waiting on some grad schools. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
A lot going on. So, of course, you got to spend the summer with us while you were doing your internship. And of course, I got to hear the day to day. But if you were to describe kind of what your responsibilities were, what your role at the camp was throughout the summer, how would you describe?
This was a really hands-on experience for me because up until this point, I had been kind of a shadower. So this was the first experience where I was in the leadership position. So we split all the kids up into two groups. There was an older group, 13 to 18, and then the younger group was around 7 to 13 years old. And so me and one other camp counselor were in charge of the younger kids. And so, for the most part, we were not under any supervision. They were obviously there if we needed them, but for the most part, it was up to us to keep the kids on task, keep them engaged. We had a schedule that we were supposed to follow. We went outside, we did outdoor play, we did team building activities. We had some learning segments where we teach them each week. We had a different theme. One of the themes like Crazy Fun Week, and then another week we learned about like trains and automobiles and just different interests that the kids may have. And so that was a time where we could really teach them stuff on top of just having fun. So yeah, it was me and this other camp counselor that got to engage with them, and we got to build bonds and connections with them and play with them and have them interact with each other just to learn a lot of different social skills and stuff like that can be really beneficial for them moving forward.
Awesome. And so, of course, each of the kids, I'm sure, had a different personality. But if you were to just describe in one word the kids in general and what your day was like, how would you describe that?
I feel like I would describe them as able because I think there's a lot of stigma around kids with disabilities or special needs. But these were like any other kids. They loved to play. They played card games. They played with Legos. They did puzzles. When we went outside, we played soccer. There was really nothing holding them back. They obviously need some help in some certain areas, but every kid had their unique interests and they had their own personalities. And it really taught me that their label does not define them. Yeah, they were all able in their own way.
Excellent. And so, how did you identify what the unique interests were for each of the kids, and also maybe identify some of the challenges that they may experience that you needed to be aware of or address specifically? Was that something that you were able to glean from working with the kids? Was that something that the family brought to you ahead of time? And how did that affect your plan or how you interacted with each of the kids?
Mhm. Each of the parents filled out a form coming in to say some of their areas of concern or some topics to be concerned with, or just to be aware of when you're working with these kids. But for the most part, I gauged a lot from just interacting with them, how they interacted with me, how they interacted with the kids around them. I think that's really how I learned what their interests were and what they were good at and what they maybe struggled with and needed a little more assistance on. Because I think it's one thing to read about a kid and say, okay, this might be an area of concern, but being in different settings, like what's an area of concern and like maybe the home life might not apply to the camp setting. So I think just like experience and interacting with them was the best way for me to really see who they were and just how I could help them. The parents or caregivers would drop the kids off and then they'd also pick them up at the end of the day. So I made sure to talk to parents when I they'd sign out their kids and I'd make sure to say, so and so had a really good day today. We worked on this and we worked on this and we worked on this, just to show them that we are paying attention to their kid and we were having fun. And it's not one of those summer camps where you sit in the classroom and you have this to do. It was a place that they could be free and we were flexible. And depending on what those kids wanted to do, we took their feedback and we made it a place that they could really just let loose and have fun. Because I know the reason this summer camp was created was because there were not a lot of summer camps available to children with special needs. So, and I also know a lot of the parents were apprehensive coming in, just not knowing, with all these different kids with these different needs, just having, like I said, some apprehensions about if this would be a good fit for their kid or a place that we were able to care for them, demonstrating to their parents that these kids are having fun. And I know a lot of the parents who had said to me, oh, my daughter, this is the most fun she's had all summer. Over the weekends when we don't have camp, she's constantly asking, can we go back? Is it camp? Is it Monday? Can we go back to camp? So, and that's just reassuring to us knowing that we are doing a good job and they are enjoying what we're doing for them.
Absolutely. Are there any particular memories or vivid accounts of something that either reinforced for you this career path or called it into question?
One thing that really confirmed that this is what I want to do was just the connections I was able to form with certain kids. Obviously, I think that they all liked me as a camp counselor, but there were
I'm
certain
sure
kids
that
who really were drawn to me in particular. So that really made me feel good because obviously this is something I want to do, but I want to make sure that's something I'm good at. So when these kids would say, "Can you play Uno with me? I want Bella to be on my team for this sport." It just really confirmed to me that they are really liking how I'm able to connect with them and the bonds I'm able to form with them. So yeah, it really just solidified that not only is this something I'm passionate about, but I think it's something that I'm good at.
awesome. Is there anything that you took away from the experience that goes beyond working with the kids or your career path as an occupational therapist? Anything that translates just to for all of us in our everyday lives?
Yeah, I think for one thing, obviously in any healthcare setting when you're working with patients, you want to show empathy. But I think that really translates to any area of life. You want to make sure that when you interact with people, you're caring about them and you're showing that you're interested in them, even if it's just a simple conversation. Just letting them know that they're valued and that you're taking your time out of your day and you're showing empathy to them. And then I think another main lesson I learned is to not judge people. And I know that's an age-old saying, don't judge a book by its cover, but it's just so important. I've learned to not take these labels and judge people based off of them. Because if you don't know somebody and you're hearing these things, they have this characteristic or whatever it may be, to make sure that you know that on the inside, we are all people. And just making sure that you're judging people based off of their personality and their interests and their desires and the things that really matter, and not any of these superficial characteristics that I think can sometimes get in the way.
For sure. Um, do you think that for those of us who work in areas of healthcare that don't routinely see children and or adults with special needs as frequently and routinely as you've had the opportunity throughout the course of your schooling so far, is there anything that you would say to us that would help us to be more knowledgeable or have a more inclusive or comforting environment when we are helping individual patients or families that may be experiencing some of these unique characteristics?
I think the most important thing I would say is to just treat every patient as an individual, because something I've learned with children with special needs that I think can be generalized to anyone is that they don't want to be seen as just a patient. They want to be, you need to be able to connect with them and form these bonds. And when you're able to connect with them on a level that's deeper than just a doctor seeing a patient, I think they really are able to open up to you. And when they're more comfortable in the scenario, I think you're able to give a lot better care. Like I said, especially with children with special needs, I found that adhering to their interests and forming connections with them has really allowed them to open up. But I think that can be applied to any area of healthcare.
I know that you valued and had a lot of fun with your internship, learned a lot, and it was a great experience. And it's always inspiring for me to hear about it. I'm always proud to tell people about all the great things that all of my kids, but in this particular instance, you are achieving. But I want to switch gears just a little bit. And as a young person entering into a healthcare profession in the not too distant future, and just the workforce in general, I wanted to get a little bit of a sense as I get older and older, and try to stay connected to uh, my staff and workforce, which aren't all as old as me. So I wanted to talk a little bit about your experiences thus far in the workforce and your goals going forward, just to understand what some of your personal, but also your generational expectations are. So, what do you think that your path has been in terms of how easy or difficult it has been to navigate your desires as a young person and as a young lady? Do you feel like you've been given the same opportunities as your male counterparts? Do you feel as though being young, you are treated with the respect that you deserve? How easy or difficult is it to advocate for yourself in different environments? Any thoughts on that, whether it be in school or in your applications to graduate school or in seeking internships or within internships? Because I know you've had a few.
My experience has actually been really good. I really haven't had anything that I feel like has been a setback for me. And I know part of that comes from there just being a push to have settings that are just more focused on equality and, not discriminating against people because of any characteristic. So I've had a really good experience. I don't feel like being young or being a woman has set me back, but rather, I think that a lot of the healthcare professionals that I've interned under or shadowed under, I think they're just really open to a new generation being excited in healthcare. And I think part of that comes from knowing that the new knowledge that these young people have coming in. I'm excited about the field of healthcare. And so that's really given me the opportunity to ask them questions and just see what their experience has been and how that differs from the experience my generation is having and seeing the similarities and differences there. But I think my experience so far has been really good.
I'm glad to hear that. Um, It'll be interesting to hear whether your sister has the same thing to say, given that she is entering a career that is definitely male
Yeah.
dominated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that is for a different podcast on a different day. Today we're focused on so you grew up in our household with me as a physician and probably had a certain perspective of healthcare and healthcare careers, or at least physician-led careers. Now that you've had the opportunity to work in a variety of different healthcare settings for yourself, what do you think was what you expected and what was maybe different than you expected?
I've seen the care you've given to patients and the stories you've come home and told, and I always knew that it was a really rewarding field to go into healthcare, and that's something that definitely has stayed consistent. Interning at an occupational therapy place myself has just really shown me how rewarding it is because hearing you talk about it is one thing, but feeling it yourself is another. So that's something that definitely has stayed consistent, and I'm so glad I've been given the opportunity to experience. I think one thing that not that an insight that I thought was different, but something I underestimated was the emotional aspect of it. With that, I mean, I know you've talked about how hard it can be at times when a patient is in critical condition, or maybe you're not able to help them the ways you want. But again, actually experiencing it that myself, I didn't realize how hard it would be in the healthcare field. And although we're in different fields, I would go into occupational therapy still seeing some children that have a condition that makes it so there's things that they can't do themselves. It's just really heartbreaking to see. And it's just something that, because you need to make sure that you have empathy, but you're not letting your emotions get in the way of giving them proper care, and you don't want to let them see that you're struggling. So that's just something that I think experiencing myself was really different.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point and something that at the beginning of my career wasn't probably talked about often enough, and probably still isn't, but is certainly something that is spoken about a bit more frequently and openly than in the past. And that is burnout. As you begin internship schooling, how do you practice self-care and ensure that at the end of a difficult or a stressful day, that you're able to regenerate the energy to go back into that environment the next day? And even if you've been able to do it for a day or for a summer internship, what are your thoughts about that, longitudinally as you go through your career? Do you have apprehensions about how to achieve a healthy work life and personal life?
Yeah, I think just going out, obviously, I've had a lot of these internships during semesters at school. So just between classes and all the tests and homework and studying I need to do, and then going to internships, it definitely can be overwhelming at times. And there are times where I'd rather just skip my internship and just focus on my schooling. But I think one thing I found is that just setting aside a few hours a day, whether if that's before I go to bed, to watch Netflix or TV or hang out with my roommates or friends, and just little things that just getting away from the work of it all, and just things that I find joy from, I think has really helped me just to calm down from the day and all the stressors. I think my main thing I tell myself is to think of the reward you're getting from this work. And although it can be overwhelming at times, and it may seem like a lot to handle, and you talked about burnout, I think whenever you're feeling that, just knowing that you're making a difference and that it's not for nothing, and it's not just a stressful thing that you have to do, but you need to think about the impact you're making in not only your patients' lives, but their families' lives as well. So just knowing that it may be really stressful from you, definitely need to make sure you're taking care of yourself, but also knowing that you are doing this for a greater purpose.
Yeah, those are all great things that you're doing. Is there anything that you can think of that for me as a leader that I should be mindful of in terms of supporting the staff?
I think one thing to be mindful of is the mental health aspect of it. Knowing that even if people maybe do have time at the end of the day to just, decompress and do little hobbies that they find interesting, sometimes even when they're doing that, there's a mental aspect there where they're just still tired. And so I think just being aware of that, and making sure that while they're still doing their job, you're giving them opportunities to just take care of themselves.
Well, I loved hearing more detail about your internship, and you always provide me sage advice. So I will definitely heed that as I continue to try to be a better leader to our team every day than the day before. Um, I know you're coming home this weekend, which I'm looking forward to. I'll pretend it is to see me and not to go to the football game.
For both, it's for both.
Okay. Yeah. So I look forward to that, and I'm sure we'll be talking before that. But I love you, and it was great talking to you. I appreciate you doing this for me.
I love you too.
All right. Talk to you later.